So I'm always curious, right? And we're not live, so like answer how you want. But it for someone who's interested in like getting into something similar, because I went a different route. I went the whole like Unix heavy,
Yeah.
Linux heavy nerd route. Um, what was a progression that you see for the beginning of your career, like what job you would get entry level, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of what that looks like progression wise to where you are now. And what I'm really curious about is what that looks like financially. Like for people who want to say, hey, this is a potential career,
Mm-hmm.
what does that translate towards? If you're comfortable sharing. If not, it's cool.
Nah,
right?
I'm open book, so
All
it
right,
doesn't really
great.
matter. So I would say many people, I hate to say this generation, they like things easy
You're not lying.
and they don't like to work for it. But one of the best jobs, it probably was the hardest job I had when I was growing up. I worked at IBM and I worked at the help desk at IBM. And it was like you got to take calls, and really try to get the problems resolved. But it helped you to troubleshoot and research things. And then after that, I went to a job where I was third level. I sat in a chat room, and it was a company called Sykes. And so they were a company that did IT support for different companies. So it might be Adobe, it might be AT&T dial-up, which was the one I did. So I sat in a room, first level. They come into this chat room, do exactly. No, and here's the crazy thing: I worked both of those jobs at the same time.
Really?
When I worked at IBM, and they were both full-time jobs.
Yeah.
I worked from 7 a.m. to 3, right? IBM Drive. I crossed over, went over to David Taylor, where Sykes was, and I worked from 3:30 to midnight.
Sheesh.
And I did that after a couple of years after I graduated from college. So you gotta put your dues in. It's not gonna come easy.
No.
But the progression is help desk, and then maybe kind of some type of system administrator job. And when people don't think you can make money in doing IT, or you got to be in cybersecurity to make a lot of money, that's not true. Right? As you progress in your career, first thing is you get the training, but the job is going to train you what you need to learn, right? They're going to train you for that specific job. And so as you continue to train, that salary can continue to go up. So, I think about my progression over, let's just say, the last 5 years. I mean, I probably jumped $50,000 in salary. So, I make well over 6 figures in what I do. So, and that's not with a 4-year degree. That's with a 10-month degree. Got my computer associate's degree, and I went and got certifications, right? Microsoft certification. And once you start building at a company, I've been with Duke now for 15 years. So actually, once you start building in that company, you'll still continue to learn, but you may not have to get the certifications. Now you got AWS, Azure, a lot of cloud things that people are going to. So stay with the technology. So AWS, get your job to pay for that. Your cloud practitioner is somewhere you might want to start. I mean, depending on which route you want to go. Many companies I've seen are going to AWS, but a lot of companies still use Azure. So either one of those would be somewhere to probably start right now.
That's interesting. So in your help desk roles in the beginning, how much were those? I know that was like, what, you said 20 plus years ago?
Yeah, that was 20 plus years
So,
ago.
I mean, it's going to be skewed because of time.
Yeah.
But, like, they'll probably pay a little more now. But how much were you making in help desk role?
I mean, being that I wasn't married at the time, I wasn't married yet, so this was probably about 35 a year.
Yeah.
that
I
makes
mean, now
sense.
that's probably a little more now, right?
Yeah.
Because, economic hard falls and times, people just pay more money coming out of college, but about 35. And then as I went to jobs, I switched
And that was
jobs.
per job? You were making 35 per job? Mm-hmm. So you were pulling in 70.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you was hustling.
Hustling.
Yeah.
It's like,
Nah.
yeah.
A funny story is my grandmother is from Jamaica, and so I got a little Jamaican in me, and they say, hey, you work like a Jamaican, you got 3 jobs. And I said, hey, my family, it was like, look, you got to hustle. So that's where I got that from. So.
Yeah, that was one thing on both sides of my family that was not tolerated.
Yeah.
Laziness.
No, I ain't gonna be lazy.
You just can't. You can be a lot of things, but you can't be lazy.
Exactly.
It's so interesting to me because of something you said earlier about a recent generation of people just kind of wanting that instant gratification, wanting things easily. And I think about when we were like in high school, right? Like tech jobs weren't something that were like shoved up to us. You graduated 2011, I graduated 2012.
Man, y'all make me feel old.
I know. It happens to all of our guests. Don't worry about it. But
We'll be there soon.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
true.
But like I went to school for electrical. So that was the thing that was pushed. Get a trade, something you can put your hands on. And when even a person who doesn't have electrical skills walks up and sees a building being constructed, walks up seeing somebody, they can tell like that skill takes work, because I don't just flick on my light switch and assume that very little work went into this. I think there's something inherent about technology because of how instant technology is for us that we just say, oh, I'll just jump into it and it'll be easy. Or the things I use give my life such an ease of use that everything else will just move along the same way. So we talked about it in a previous podcast where somebody be like, oh, you know, I want to get into tech. How do I do it? And we're just like, it'll erase the next year of your life outside of bare necessity things so that you can make the jump that you have to because it's tough. And you're like, and then that's how that switch happens.
Oh man, I got a whole bunch of thoughts on
You know, it's interesting because people ask me that question all the time. It's like, how do I get into tech? They want to build computers and stuff like that, which is fine. I used to do that too. I say I don't do it anymore because I just don't have the patience for it anymore. But a lot of things I find, and I'm on Instagram and I read these articles. There's a lot of things on YouTube in regards to training. You got YouTube, Udemy. There's so many opportunities now that I didn't have to be able to go out and learn. You'd have to go to a school. Now all this stuff is out here for free.
Yeah,
So,
all the information is there.
oh yeah.
I think that's what's tough sometimes. Is like all the information is so readily available. People sometimes don't know what to focus on through the noise. And I can understand that, like, there's so much, you kind of get information overload. You don't know exactly what path to walk down because there's all the paths are in front of you.
Analysis paralysis.
And I can understand that. I think the hard thing for me is when, someone works with you, helps you to isolate a path, right? You have something in front of you that, okay, I want to work towards this. And then I still see the laziness at that point. That for me is when it's difficult. Like you've had someone try to help you and guide you. They're not expecting anything but hoping that you put in effort to help yourself. And then that I see that a lot. But I'm still a firm believer that I think everyone should at least have access to the knowledge and opportunity.
Yeah.
And there should be people going out of their way to try and give them the knowledge and perspective of that opportunity.